It's March 7th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the government's response to the mass walkouts by doctors. President Yoon says that there is no choice but to respond strictly and in accordance with law and principles against those doctors who infringe on people's right to life and health. Police on Wednesday summoned and questioned the first doctor whom authorities suspect of instigating the collective action. Former UN ambassador and Republican Nikki Haley ended her White House campaign after President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump secured easy victories on Super Tuesday, paving the way for a widely expected Biden-Trump rematch. U.S. Fed Chair Chair Powell still expects rate cuts this year, but notes the Fed is not quite ready to do so yet. And stocks have posted gains as it spoke, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 250 points at midday Wednesday. Steps to suspend licenses of doctors taking part in a mass walkout are in full swing now. Police summoned and questioned the first doctor who is believed to have initiated the collective action. Our Shin Yeon starts us off.
Police on Wednesday summoned Chu So-ho, spokesperson of the Korean Medical Association Emergency Committee, for questioning over the ongoing trainee doctors' walkout. Trainee doctors in South Korea submitted letters of resignation on February 20th and stopped working to protest the government's planned increase in the admissions quota for medical schools. Before facing police questioning, Chu firmly rejected accusations made against him and argued that the collective resignation of resident doctors was a peaceful and voluntary act.
Government and civic groups who filed a complaint against us will be in for a surprise because we never encouraged a walkout. So the accusation of incitement simply doesn't hold up.
Last Tuesday, the Health Ministry lodged a formal complaint with police against 5 officials from the KMA, accusing them of multiple offenses, such as violating medical laws and disrupting business operations. Following June, next up for questioning is former KMA President No Hwang-kyu on Saturday. 3 other officials are in the process of scheduling questioning with the police. This came as some 7,000 doctors in training now face proceedings aimed at suspending their medical licenses. On Tuesday, the government began sending out advance notices about the administrative procedures facing doctors who have not returned to work in defiance of a return-to-work order. Following the issuance of the notices, doctors will have a 2-week period to submit their defense through written statements. Should the administrative actions be upheld, their medical licenses will be suspended for 3 months. Amid continuing disruption to medical services, 5 major hospitals in Seoul, including Seoul National University Hospital, said they were exploring the possibility of merging wards to enhance the efficiency of patient care. With the medical system being restructured to focus on patients with critical or emergency needs, there is a plan to treat patients with less urgent conditions in a single ward, much like the approach taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. Other hospitals across the country are also considering either not operating certain medical departments or merging wards. Shin Yeon, Arirang News.
And the government continues to stress that those who put their right to life and health at risk will be held responsible. Contingency funds are being secured to make sure emergency and essential services remain in full operation. Our Oh Soo-young reports.
There is no tolerance for doctors who neglect their duties, infringing people's rights to life and health under the Korean Constitution. That's according to President Yoon on Wednesday, as thousands of junior doctors continue their illegal boycott against the government's plan to raise the number of medical students at universities. Chairing a meeting at the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures headquarters, Yoon called on authorities to thoroughly implement measures to stabilize medical services, saying the government has some $96 million of contingency funds to ensure that emergency care and essential services remain in operation. Such measures involve a pilot project for nurses to support medical treatment, deploy military doctors, and support labor costs to recruit additional personnel. Also, Yoon said the so-called Big 5 hospitals in the country will focus on treating seriously ill patients, while local general hospitals will tend to those in less critical conditions. These measures, he said, will help stabilize the medical system amid the ongoing crisis. Addressing his cabinet ministers earlier in the day, Yoon issued a strong warning, saying the doctors have put the lives and health of citizens at risk.
의사들의 집단 행동은 스스로 책무를 져버리는 일이며 자유주의와 법치주의의 근간을 흔드는 것입니다. 국민의 생명을 볼모로 하는 불법적인 집단 행동에는 법과 원칙에 따라 엄중히 대응할 수밖에 없습니다.
Yoon said as the state is constitutionally obliged to protect the lives and health of its citizens, doctors are licensed to carry out this heavy public duty. He asserted that doctors' own rights and freedoms also come with responsibility, shooting down claims that suspending medical licenses for an estimated 7,000 partaking in the strikes infringes on their rights. At the same time, the president appeared to extend a message of reassurance. While reiterating the need for reform to the healthcare system, he pledged to spare no investment and support to raise the capacity and quality of medical schools to meet global standards, and promised to actively heed voices from the medical community. Yoon also said authorities will address the laborious sacrifices of young resident doctors, restructuring the personnel system to provide optimal support for medical staff. According to the president, since the national health insurance was first introduced in 1977, the number of doctors has only grown by sevenfold and the number of medical students 2.2 times, despite medical expenses having spiked over 500 times. 오수영, Arirang News.
Seoul once again urged Pyongyang to end its nuclear activities, as well as its military cooperation with Moscow. South Korean ambassador to Austria, Ham Sang-wook, who was taking part in Wednesday's International Atomic Energy Agency regular board meeting held in Vienna, called on North Korea to immediately stop its illegal nuclear development and comply with the IAEA's safety measure obligations. Ham said the North is seriously undermining peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and globally by emphasizing its policy of strengthening its nuclear weapons and its constitution. Ham also said that Pyongyang's military cooperation with Moscow clearly shows that the security of the Korean Peninsula and Northeast Asia is inseparable from the security of Europe and the international community as a whole. The stage is set in American presidential politics for a rematch between U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. For key takeaways from Super Tuesday, we turn to VOA correspondent Jessica Stone this morning. Hello there, Jessica.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's begin with former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's exit from the Republican presidential race, which, clears the way for Trump to get the Republican Party nomination. I mean, how did Haley do on Super Tuesday?
Well, she did the best that any Republican female candidate has ever done, winning 2 states in all, Vermont and the District of Columbia. She came up with 89 delegates, but unfortunately for her, former President Trump has 995 delegates at the end of Super Tuesday, and he's just a couple hundred delegates from clinching the nomination in full. We expect that to happen in just the next couple of weeks. So she did exit the race, as you mentioned, on Wednesday morning. In her speech, though, she congratulated Donald Trump, but she did not endorse him, saying, quote, "It is up to Trump to, quote, earn her supporters' votes."
Right, so clearly Super Tuesday was a good one for Trump. How did he handle the win then?
Well, he did not mention Haley at all during his speech on Tuesday night. On Wednesday morning, though, he did write this on social media, quote, "Nikki Haley got trounced last night in record-setting fashion, despite the fact that Democrats, for reasons unknown, are allowed to vote in Vermont and various other Republican primaries." Those are completely legal proceedings. There are several open primaries, 6 to be exact, on Super Tuesday, in which you can vote in a primary of your choice, no matter what party you are. So Republicans now are moving on. They're rallying around Donald Trump. We saw Senator Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader and a prominent Republican in the party, endorse Donald Trump earlier today. And Wednesday morning, the Republican National Committee called him the presumptive nominee. This clears the way for donors to move their money all into the RNC, into his pockets, as opposed to being divided with other Republican candidates for the office. And it is also key, of course, because Donald Trump is facing so many legal cases. The party has had to face whether or not it's going to pay for those legal fees and some of those fines that have already been assessed. There was an effort in the Republican Party to prevent any money from the RNC going to Donald Trump's legal fees, and that has failed.
Right. Well, what President Joe Biden is saying that there's room for Nikki Haley supporters in his campaign. He's also giving the State of the Union address on Thursday night. How will he leverage that opportunity to get reelected?
You know, it's the most airtime he's going to take this week. And in light of what happened on Super Tuesday and the very little commentary that he has given publicly about the election, this is really his opportunity to reach voters and to reach specifically those Haley voters who are hesitant to support Donald Trump. He does, though, head into the speech with one of the lowest approval ratings on record for any sitting U.S. president. An Economist poll showing that a majority of Americans in that survey say the country is on the wrong track. He's expected to talk about immigration and the economy, about how his policies have been good for the economy and how he is willing to support tough immigration enforcement. You'll recall that he did back a Senate effort a couple of weeks back to implement some new immigration reforms, and Donald Trump pressured the Republicans in Congress not to support that bill after many of them had done so. So Biden also expected to call for additional funding for Ukraine, and in light of what happened to President Zelenskyy with that near miss of that attack, that also is expected to come up. But keep in mind, his wife was invited to attend the State of the Union address by the White House, and she has declined.
Definitely. Jessica, I cannot help but point out questions over Biden. I mean, he's already the oldest sitting U.S. president. How do voters feel about Biden's age? I have to ask.
It's an important question and something that will put him in the spotlight because he is on TV essentially for at least an hour, if not more. So he will be closely watched, all of his mannerisms. And analysts say that he's going to be watched for his energy level, his vibrancies level, his vitality, stamina, control over verbal slips. We've seen him make those in the past. But, you know, he's not the only one who is taking criticism for age by the American public. An AP NORC poll shows that most American adults don't think either of these candidates, Trump or Biden, are particularly mentally capable to be president. Of course, Trump on the campaign trail has taken to slamming Biden for what he calls cognitive lapses. And just last month, a special counsel report did criticize President Biden for memory loss, for hazy and poor memory, claiming he couldn't even recall the date of his son Beau's death. That made the president very angry. He shot back very forcefully, saying his memory is just fine. But as I say, Trump has had his own slips. He appeared to confuse Republican rival Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker. And he also said that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was the leader of Turkey. So Americans not overly thrilled by the age of these two candidates going into a general election in which they have a choice between a 77-year-old and an 81-year-old.
Right. It looks like they are on the same page here. All right, Jessica, thank you so much for the coverage today. We appreciate it.
You bet. See you soon.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell on Wednesday once again hinted interest rate cuts are on the way amid a backdrop of economic uncertainty and concerns over a commercial real estate-driven banking crisis. Shin Se-byuk has the details.
U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has indicated potential interest rate cuts in 2024. Testifying before Congress on Wednesday, Powell reaffirmed plans to cut interest rates within the year, though he did not pin down an exact timeline.
If the economy evolves broadly as expected, it will likely be appropriate to begin dialing back policy restraint at some point this year.
Despite this, Powell adopted a cautious approach regarding rate reductions, emphasizing that the 2% inflation target has not yet been met.
But the economic outlook is uncertain, and ongoing progress toward our 2% objective for inflation is not assured.
The Fed chair also noted that the U.S. economy is showing no sign of an imminent recession, saying that restoring price stability and achieving maximum employment must come before lowering interest rates. Powell's remarks at the December 2023 FOMC meeting, which were made public in January, suggested an end to the aggressive rate hike policy the U.S. has been following. At that time, FOMC officials anticipated 3 rate cuts, each by a 0.25 percentage point by the end of 2024, while the actual policy path would depend on how the economy evolves. Following Powell's testimony, U.S. stocks closed higher on Wednesday, breaking a 2-day losing streak on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average saw a 0.2% rise. The broader S&P 500 index advanced by 0.5%, and the Nasdaq Composite climbed by 0.6%. Meanwhile, concerns over a U.S. banking crisis triggered by commercial real estate issues were addressed by Powell as well. This was in the context of shares in holding bank New York Community Bancorp dropping nearly 40% on Wednesday, following news that the bank had downgraded to below investment grade due to bad commercial real estate loans and was attempting to secure new funding. Powell acknowledged this as a significant challenge, but reassured that it was manageable and unlikely to impact the wider economy significantly. 신세벽, 아리랑 뉴스.
2 crew members of a cargo ship passing through the Gulf of Aden have been killed by Houthi rebels, marking the first civilian death since the group began attacking ships passing through the Red Sea. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran-backed Yemen-based Houthi rebels have been attacking commercial ships passing through the Red Sea since November last year in what they say is retaliation for Israel's war in Gaza. On Wednesday, these ongoing attacks resulted in the first civilian deaths. According to both U.S. and British officials, 2 crew members of a commercial ship were killed and 6 others injured in a strike by the rebel group using an anti-ship ballistic missile. The Greek-owned Barbados-flagged ship was hit approximately 93 kilometers off the coast of Yemen's port of Aden, with crew members forced to abandon the ship. A shipping industry source who spoke on the condition of anonymity said that the U.S. and Indian warships attempted to rescue the crew, but 3 remain missing. The Houthis later claimed responsibility for the attack, which U.S. officials say was their 5th missile attack in the past 2 days. A Houthi spokesman said the targeting operation came as the ship's crew rejected warning messages from Yemeni naval forces. Since November last year, the rebels have been launching drones and missiles against international commercial shipping, arguing that they're responding to Israel's war in Gaza. The attacks have disrupted global shipping, forcing shipping companies to take longer and more expensive routes around southern Africa. And despite international condemnation and a call to end hostilities in the Red Sea, the Houthis said they won't stop until the aggression is stopped and the siege on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip is lifted. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. We begin today in Ukraine, where a Russian missile strike hit the Black Sea port of Odesa on Wednesday during a summit between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis. The attack was reportedly roughly 500 to 800 meters from the leaders, close enough for them to see and hear it. The Russian Defense Ministry said its troops successfully hit a hangar housing Ukrainian naval drones in the port. The recent attack comes a few days after 12 people, including 5 children, were killed by a Russian drone strike on Odesa. The Ukrainian and Greek leaders visited the building hit in that earlier strike to pay tribute to the victims. Zelenskyy accused Russia of not caring who they target and called Moscow a terrorist army. Moving over to Egypt, where amid an economic crisis that has gripped the country for more than 2 years, a new bailout agreement worth $8 billion was signed with the International Monetary Fund. The agreement is an expansion of a $3 billion fund facility agreed in December 2022. The deal came after the Egyptian Central Bank announced it would let its pound currency trade freely and delivered an interest rate hike of 600 basis points to stabilize the economy. As part of the new deal, Egypt will receive an additional $1.2 billion from a separate facility promoting environmental sustainability. The Egyptian economy has been severely impacted by several factors, including years of government austerity, the COVID-19 pandemic, fallout from the war in Ukraine, and most recently, the conflict in Gaza. Moving on to the situation in Haiti, where armed gangs are seeking to oust the country's Prime Minister Ariel Henry. The U.S. State Department, responding to claims that Washington was trying to persuade the Haitian Prime Minister to resign, has said that this is not the case. Rather, the State Department spokesperson said on Wednesday it's calling for Henry to expedite the transition to an empowered and inclusive governance structure that will move with urgency to help the country prepare for a multinational security support mission. The mission, backed by the United Nations but stalled for months, would aim to address the nation's security situation and pave the way for free and fair elections. The comments come after the Miami Herald had earlier reported that U.S. officials called Henry mid-flight when he was returning to Haiti via the U.S. to persuade him to step aside. In Mexico, a group of protesters demanding answers about the 43 college students who disappeared in 2014 broke down the door of Mexico's presidential palace with a truck gun Wednesday. Several demonstrators were stopped by military police before reaching the hall, where Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador was holding a news conference. A decade ago, the students' disappearance from a teacher training college shocked the country. According to Mexican government officials and United Nations reports, it led to a state cover-up and abuses during the investigation into their disappearance.
Good morning. Sunshine will hide behind the clouds again today, with more wet weather in store for central regions and Gyeongsang-do areas. Right now, wet clouds are hovering around eastern parts of Korea, but will move in towards the mainland today. Mountainous regions in Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-bukdo could see up to 5 centimeters of snowfall. The nearby inland regions could see 1 to 3 centimeters of snow today, so please stay safe on the roads. The capital area could see spotty showers, but all the precipitation should let up tonight. Then colder air will drop temperatures to below norms. Get ready for sub-zero morning temperatures through the weekend. Afternoon highs will be 1 to 5 degrees lower than yesterday, topping out at 8 degrees Celsius here in the capital, 10 degrees for most of southern provinces this afternoon. Meanwhile, those in Jeollado provinces could have brighter skies than other regions today. After some spring cold this weekend, we are expecting more spring-like temperatures next week with sunnier skies. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Friday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
한국에 오면 먹어야죠.
먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
웰컴.
엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's my way? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generations.
Making news just for you. It's March 7th here in Seoul. I'm Yoon, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Choi-Yeon.
Great to be here.
Great to have you. And Jung-Hae-sun.
Happy to be here.
Happy morning. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos, has reclaimed the title of the richest man on Earth. This used to be Elon Musk, but the Tesla CEO lost over $31 billion over the past year. Bezos, on the other hand, gained $23 billion, bringing his net worth to around $200 billion, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. Moving on, nearly 70% of the world's entire hooded crane population are resting in a South Korean bay in South Chungcheong province. Latest observations point to how the endangered migratory species seem to have recovered from the 2022 to 23 avian influenza outbreak. 10% of the 20,000 total birds were thought to have been succumbed to the disease. And it's normal for these birds to stop by the Cheonsu Bay area in Korea because it's warm during the winter before they return to Siberia in spring. And lastly, Karina, a 23-year-old singer and member of K-pop girl group aespa, has been pushed to apologize to her fans for supposedly having a boyfriend. Last month, it was rumored that the girl group member was dating a Korean actor named Lee Jae-wook. Instead of supporting her, aespa fans harassed Karina and Lee online. Some went as far to hiring a truck to drive to her agency SM's headquarters and broadcast a message saying, "Is the love given to you by your fans not enough?" Some fans even boycotted buying any of the girl group's merchandise or attending offline fan signing events. And since the situation has spiraled out of control, Karina uploaded a handwritten letter on her social media, and she apologized countlessly, saying she recognized how she had disappointed her fans and that she would try to not let them down again. And it's not the first time a celebrity in Korea had to apologize over a part of their personal life being disclosed to the public, though, and especially over dating rumors, because it used to be culture for agencies to ban new stars or freshly debuting artists from dating altogether because they wanted fans to think that their idols were completely accessible. But this type of social atmosphere has definitely stirred up some controversy, and I'd like to ask our panelists here in the studio if K-pop idols or celebrities should they have to hide their personal life for the sake of fans who pour their attention and money for their artist's fame, or do you think this is too excessive?
So, well, the first thing came up with me was idols are also human beings. Karina is in her 20s, young and beautiful enough to be in a relationship like us. And I believe her dating is part of her private life. Living her life as a Karina, living her life as who she is instead of Karina, it's deserved to be respected. And of course, putting myself in her fans' shoes, I do understand why they are sensitive and disappointed. I was also devastated when my favorite idol member confirmed his relationship with another idol because I'm his fan. But you know, there's a saying, happy wife, happy life. Supporting their star's date and life will bring another joy and happiness to the fans. So happy idols, happy fans indeed.
Exactly, and I think we mentioned this on NewsGen a few times, what the definition of a fan should be like. In order for us to facilitate healthy fan culture, I do think that fans should keep their celebrities and allow them to have personal boundaries, even though sometimes we feel like we're pouring a lot of money and attention for their fame and for their well-being. Also learning to understand that their livelihoods and personal life comes first should be a matter that fans put in their heads. But what do you think about this issue?
Yeah, K-pop is such a huge part of Korea that having a good and clean image is crucial for celebrities to remain popular, or else the public will complain about, these people not fit to be idols, which the name implies. It's almost as if they have to be perfect and pure, which I think brings a lot of burden for a lot of these celebrities because they can't even be in an open relationship. I understand the reason behind this because fans love seeing, interacting, and talking with their fans. But I do feel like respecting their own personal life and privacy would be in the best interest of the idol if the fans were really rooting for them. I was nevertheless surprised by how much controversy this brought, becoming like a social and economic issue as well.
Exactly. exactly affecting the girl group sales in total, whether it be merchandise or not boycotting to go to offline fan events? And I think this really shed light as to whether South Korea's fan culture is going in the right direction. And we'll hopefully see some developments, positive ones. But in the meantime, we're now going to turn to our main discussion topic of the day. The reason why we have Hyunwoo and Haesun in their Letterman jackets today in the studio is because they are the youngest of our NewsGen members. Hyunwoo's still in college and Haesun's just graduated from university. And this is a major hint as to what we'll be talking about. Take a listen to find out more. In South Korea, the school year typically starts in March and ends in February of the following year. This means that now's the time most universities are welcoming 새내기, which in Korean refers to new students. Before COVID-19, there was a ritual most Korean freshmen would go through. That would be first going to an orientation session, or 세터, which translates as Freshman Learning Center. Just before the semester kicks off, freshmen would be able to meet their colleagues, professors, and second or third year seniors to get a heads up on how to adjust to college life. It's tradition for most to drink here. Then once campus is open and classes start, freshmen would go on group blind dates. Membership training or MT traveling with classmates or club members are also held regularly. But since the pandemic, strict social distancing measures changed how Korean university freshmen enjoy their first year of college. Then how exactly has the pandemic prevented Korean university students, specifically freshmen, from enjoying their first year of college? To find out, we're going to be asking two of the youngest panelists on NewsGen. Hyunwoo, you've entered university in the peak of the pandemic, and here in Korea, we call them the most unfortunate class students, given the fact that you guys couldn't really enjoy much large gatherings and stuff like that. But could you tell us a little bit more about how college life has been for you so far?
I mean, at least for me, college life here in Korea has been pretty fun. Because I attend George Mason University's Korea campus, which is an American university, it's an interesting dynamic with both American and Korean aspects of Korean culture. And I did enter university in that unfortunate period of, COVID-19 being still around. So I did unfortunately miss, attending in-person events like one of the highlights of being a freshly admitted student, like the new student orientation. But I actually held it virtually using a software called GatherTown, where people have like avatars and can move around this virtual 2D game-like space. And having been the student body president as well, I would say that college is when you actually start having real responsibilities as an adult. But it's also fun because you have friends and peers to help you on that way. And Korean culture of being, focusing on doing things together, I think helps with that.
Yeah, for sure. And Haesun, though you're not in college anymore, you are still a fresh graduate. So walk us through how you remember college life, especially because I think for you, you had the advantage of enjoying college life before and during the pandemic, right?
Okay, then let's say it's advantage to enjoy both. Yes, indeed, I graduated last August and now I am a freshman in the workplace. And yes, again, I experienced both campus life before and after and during the pandemic. Before the outbreak, my life was like a dream and full of gatherings, as you can see the photo. I joined the student council, went to MT, traveling during the weekend, enjoyed every festival and sport events, and even held a one-day bar near the campus. Also, I made a matching timetable with my friends so that we can have lunch together or at least take a walk together around the campus with a cup of coffee. However, the pandemic changed my life 100%. All my classes were via Zoom or pre-recorded and no gatherings at all. The worst was that even the midterm and the finals were conducted via Zoom. So sometimes we had to record ourselves and send the videos to the TA to prevent any possibilities of the cheating. I really hated that life, so actually I took a semester off. So from a whole new world of bright side to the whole new world to the bad side.
So you really had a complex and very fulfilling experience in my sense, because you've tried everything out. And right now, we're now in the first week of the spring semester. The academic calendar has kicked off here in Korea. And in light of it being a new semester, we're going to walk our viewers through the college roadmap most freshmen go through here. So Hyunwoo, could you tell us some distinctive traits a lot of Korean freshmen who go to college here experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are unique to the Korean college experience. We put a lot of meaning into the sense of belonging, for example, your major or the clubs that you're involved in, which we make kind of friendship circles in. Age is also a really important factor when it comes to Korean universities because there's a very unique senior-junior relationship called the 선배-후배 culture in Korea, where you treat your seniors with respect and they take care of you in return. That relationship kind of gets passed down when you become an upperclassman yourself, which I find really interesting.
And also, like, there's this age culture, I think, even though you're in the same class. For instance, even though I was in the class of 16, I was 1 year older than my colleagues. And so they would still call me 언니, but then there's that little age culture here in Korea, because if you think about it, though you're all in the same class, you're all considered friends, but we have different ways we would label and call each other. So now, Haesun, as a college university student who's attended one here in Korea, what would you say are some distinctive experiences?
Well, as Hyunwoo mentioned before, or Yen mentioned before, I can say that the biggest trait is the 학번, which is the year of entrance and the department belongingness. We have our own group chat, clubs, rooms, MTs, and even a jumper, like you can see, with our department logo on the sleeve. And there are also a lot of meetings between departments, so I highly recommend to focus on your group chat because all the notice will be on there. And in the same context, freshman itself is a big thing. There is even a nickname for freshmen, and in my university, we call them baby eagles. And each department and college has its own freshman orientation organization, which helps freshmen get to know their seniors and friends, get used to the new system, and we also establish a community or platform for them. Also, as most Korean college freshmen can drink, this group also takes care of them not to drink a lot. I was actually a member of a central freshman organization, and we spent about almost a whole year to plan a couple of 200 people-sized official events and some gatherings for freshmen. So you can see how important it is.
You guys really nailed it in the bud. I think in summation, I could say, number one, if you're a freshman here in Korea, you have to be well aware that there's a lot of online group chats. That's where you get all the notifications, whether it's club activities or different events held by the department. And also, as Haesun mentioned, there's this concept of meetings, and it's not literal. It's actually like group blind dates. You get to meet people from different departments. It's a great dating scene. And I guess the second trait could be the fact that you have a mentor. You really rely on your seniors or even professors sometimes to help you navigate your way. And third is all the different uniforms or like the Letterman jackets that you can have. I think in Korea, the biggest trait for college students is that collectivism culture. And that's how it's like in Korea. And Hyunwoo, I think the advantage of you attending an American curriculum-based university here in Korea is that you can sort of enjoy both of the sides, right? So would you like to compare?
That's exactly the case. So there's a few things, I guess, that come into mind when it comes to this kind of dual multicultural experience that I'm having. But the difference between like a Korean and American university, I would say, is the culture around festivals, which a lot of Korean students regard as a highlight of their college life. Here, festivals are kind of organized like concerts where you have artists and musicians come over to perform, while in the States, there's more emphasis on it being more like festival and like carnival based, where you have booths and students kind of walk over in those booths. And of course, one I can't forget is about the drinking culture, is definitely something that's integral to Korean culture, where Korean students go to restaurants or bars to drink with their friends for gatherings or events. But in the States, you have friends like come over to a party for like a home party almost. And it's not really something that you would do in Korea, if you know what I mean.
And I think the biggest difference between the States and Korea is the legal age of drinking. Because here in Korea, the legal age is much lower than the States. It's 21 and 18 here. So because of that, drinking does play a very integral and big part of university culture. In the festivals, nowadays, they've banned it, right? It used to be really widespread, but nowadays we're seeing limited drinking. But still, regardless, I think for all club activities or different events that we're hosting as university students, drinking is sometimes considered a must. But even that has changed with the pandemic. So could you walk us through, Haesun, on how like gatherings or even orientations or membership training sessions have changed with the advent of COVID-19?
Yes, it actually changed a lot during the pandemic, and it's been quite a while after the pandemic. But the interesting thing is that even students are now so used to virtual meeting, and there are actually many of them prefer to meet through the virtual meeting.
Yeah.
So even without social distancing. So nowadays, the Zoom meeting rooms are used as a room to study together, do a meeting or blind dating, and even drink together, as you mentioned, Yoon. At the same time, in-person gatherings like OTs or MTs are now reviving. However, due to the high inflation, the participation fee for MT nowadays are 2 or 3 times higher than before. So as I remember, in 2018, when I was a freshman, I paid about like $20 to $30 to join an MT, including accommodation, traffic, food, and alcohol. So if you calculate, you can tell how it must be a big burden for the freshmen nowadays.
Exactly.
Right. So that's why like many students are now considering even not to join those in-person gatherings.
And might as well just do it online, as you said. Just wear your PJs, have a glass of wine with you, and then drink with your friends.
And drink.
Much more chill. Now, what about you, Hyunwoo?
Yeah, I mean, definitely after COVID-19, I think freshman life has changed a lot. You don't really see large groups of students anymore. You see more smaller groups, and especially with like more anonymous platforms. I think students just tend to use and tend to be used to actually meeting asynchronously. And speaking of like going on blind dates, for example, which is a big part of Korean universities, I feel like that makes sense because a lot of people do that through Zoom now. And I feel like that makes sense because so many people are used to using Zoom nowadays as well.
That's quite interesting because I'm a class of 16, and what I remember is those blind dates, the group gatherings, you would go to a bar and then start to get to know each other. But nowadays, if you do it through Zoom, it seems really convenient. Now, we've listed a few key traits that illustrate what college life, especially for freshmen, is like here in South Korea. To find out what it's like in other parts of the world, we asked our viewers to share their thoughts. Take a look at the screen to find out what 3 of them had to share. Let's start with Hannah. Hannah said joining club activities, especially on campus, is a central aspect of college life in Japan. These groups range from sports teams and cultural clubs like tea ceremony or calligraphy to hobby groups like music or anime. They're vital for socializing and can even take up more time than academic studies for some students. Terrace Bell says it's the equivalent of starting high school all over again, except it's college. I'd say that going to your first college party and impressing the Hanbes or your seniors is like a rite of passage. Leon said in Singapore, college freshmen might focus more on extracurricular activities. Beyond academics, freshmen may explore their interests through clubs, sports, and volunteering, seeking a well-rounded experience. So we can tell the excitement is global. It's a common concept, especially if you're starting a very fresh start as a freshman here on campus. But to better find out what campus life is like these days here in Korea, we're going to include a professor here in the country in our talks. To add more depth to our discussion, we're going to turn to a professor at a Korean university. It's Associate Professor Hannah Chun from the Graduate School of International Studies at Ewha Women's University. Welcome, Professor Chun.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, Professor, based on your years on campus, how do you think freshmen are like these days? I mean, it's been a week since they've come back to the campus. Apart from what we've mentioned, any notable traits they have or distinctive ways that they're enjoying campus life compared to older graduates?
Right. Well, apart from looking super young, I think in many ways they're very much like their seniors, especially as the new semester begins. There's a lot of optimism and anticipation, a lot of positive energy. And I think freshmen these days are really eager to try new things and have new experiences outside of the academic curriculum. Sometimes I wish I had more interactions with them, especially at the undergraduate level. But even within our graduate school, I think our first semester students are really energetic and eager to dive into the academics, university life, but really also to meet with new people from a wide range of backgrounds.
And Professor Chun, based on your experience of studying abroad, what do you think is the biggest difference between Korean students and international college students?
Well, I think it's hard to generalize, of course. There's a wide Korean diaspora and even a wide range of personalities within any one ethnic group. So when I think of studying abroad, one of the benefits is actually to immerse yourself in another culture and experience a new learning environment. But I think sometimes for some Korean students and for many international students as well, it's kind of easy to stick with what's comfortable, especially if you speak the same language. And I think this might actually go to what Hyuna mentioned about belonging and what everyone has mentioned about kind of having a kind of collectivist little conclave. It's almost as if you have like a little circle of juniors, seniors overseas and kind of like a home away from home. And so I guess that's in a more positive light. But I've also seen those who go in the complete opposite direction. So they want to embrace everything that's not Korean. So you get a real kind of authentic overseas experience. And so in general, I think you find this kind of gravitation towards kind of similar interests and values. And I think for Korean students, but also for other international students, that's actually quite similar.
I see.
Okay, Professor, I have one last question for you. So following the pandemic, are there any positive changes to freshman campus life or anything you'd like to see from pre-pandemic things come from?
I think almost everything has been positive. After COVID, it was really hard, I think, on students as well as faculty. You mentioned, meeting through Zoom. It might have been comfortable in terms of you can take classes in your pajamas, but I think in terms of the quality of learning and the quality of teaching, nothing really beats the kind of offline, in-person experience. I know our university and other universities made a lot of efforts to make sure that we didn't sacrifice our curriculum, but I think we're really happy to be back in the same classroom together, or maybe that's just the professors, but we don't want to take that kind of offline experience for granted. I think lastly also it's really important to learn how to interact with people and how to work in groups, especially how to navigate kind of diverse social settings. And I think these kind of critical skills are really, you learn them uniquely in that kind of offline classroom setting and not on Zoom. And so hopefully we can take that attitude forward, and we look forward to seeing you more.
Exactly. I can't agree with you more because as Haesun mentioned at the very beginning, now that most of us, after graduating, we're freshmen in society, I think university is the time for you to build interpersonal relationships and social skills for you to better adapt at your workplace. Thank you so much, Professor Jeon. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now, as an ending note, I would like to ask our panelists any tips on how to better enjoy campus life here in Korea.
I have a lot to say, but first thing I have to say is I would say to try a lot of things out, especially if you're a freshman, and find out what you like doing and what you're actually good at. There's also this unspoken expectation in universities that you need to be kind of extroverted and always meet new friends. But I would say don't be pressured too much about it and enjoy college life while you're at it, and you'll kind of meet friends that you actually go along with naturally. And personally, even though I do attend an American university, I really do enjoy kind of being able to stay in Korea, as Professor Jeon kind of mentioned, not only because of my family, but because I get to enjoy that good mix of American and Korean culture. It's kind of a multicultural campus life, if you'd say so, that I'd recommend to students if they're interested.
Two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
What about you, Haesun?
The only thing I can say is carpe diem, seize the day, try everything you can do as a student. Soon there's going to be a club fair, I believe, and join the one which is really not familiar with you. Who knows, it might be a chance for you to know about yourself more than before. So the first thing I realized as soon as I graduated is that there's no more any fence that can protect me. I have to choose everything and I have to take all the responsibilities following them, and it's really different from the student life. So, and still my source of energy is the memories from my campus life, and I still wish I have enjoyed more, and I miss those days too much. So I hope the freshmen not to be afraid of the new challenges and just enjoy the moment so that they don't regret later, missing the days that cannot come back again.
I think you couldn't have said it any better. Carpe diem. Because this is the time for you to enjoy everything and try everything out and enjoy your new semester. In the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choo-Young-do.
Thank you.
And Jung-san.
My pleasure.
All right, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are New Generation.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟.